Greetings everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's video comes to us courtesy of OwOver. And OwOver is playing in my favorite Tier 9 destroyer here in World of Warships, the Fletcher. Now, as the battle gets underway, it's Shatter, it's Domination Match Mode, and Ow has informed me that this is the very first game he's playing in the Fletcher, so it's a stock boat. At this point, that's going to include stock gun range and stock torpedoes. But that isn't going to affect his ability to handle this ship expertly. Now, as he gets going underway here, he's off to the sea cap point. Both teams have 3 destroyers, so it's a moderate destroyer game, and neither team has a significant destroyer advantage. It is a Tier 10 maximum battle, though, so that could have some impact in his ability to play the Fletcher. Talking about those kinds of Tier 10 radar ships could be a significant problem. So as he pushes up here into the sea cap point, he's going to do what a lot of destroyer captains do, and that is he's going to use this main island as cover. But if you pay attention to the chat, he is communicating with his team what exactly he's planning on doing. Now, he's not shoving himself all the way up to the edge of the island here. In fact, he's actually keeping himself quite distant from the island, and he's doing this specifically so that he can spot any potential destroyers that might creep around the backside of the island. Equally important, it also keeps him from getting spotted by hydro, by any cruisers or destroyers, if they have it, that are hiding right up at the edge there. He pops his speed boost here to get himself back into the cap. He's slightly drifted out, but as you can see, it is being contested. So there is at least one enemy ship, probably a destroyer, sitting here in the sea cap. Now, his team is off to a bad start as they lose one of their destroyers. That's going to give the enemy team a destroyer advantage. And as I always say, the team that gets a destroyer advantage early, especially when you have a limited number of destroyers like this in-game, usually ends up going on to win the day. Friendly team, though, does capture the B cap point, so that means at the very least they're going to start gaining some points and hopefully recover from the loss of that ship. Ow opens up with his anti-aircraft to try and destroy this catapult fighter. As you can see, the way this catapult fighter is orbiting around, that really does tell you how close the enemy is there. As he gets farther than 3.5 kilometers away, he turns his AA off, and so that's going to drop him off detectability. Important thing to remember with the Fletcher when dealing with aircraft, your AA is decent, and it's definitely worth having the ability to destroy enemy planes. Keeping your anti-aircraft off until they spot you means that you're not going to give away your position any sooner than you have to. Your spotting from air is 3.1 kilometers if you've maxed out for concealment. Your spotting with your AA on, though, is much more like 6 kilometers, because that's the maximum range of those dual-purpose 5-inch guns. Now, he is being detected anyway, and that's going to be hydroacoustic, but he's just going to go ahead and he's going to sit back here behind this island. So the enemy team can see him, they know he's there, but they can't actually do anything about it at this point unless they actually want to rush up around and chase him down. But nobody wants to do that, given the fact that there's a destroyer, a Fletcher at that, sitting on the other side of that island. The moment you come around that island, he's just going to put torpedoes into you, and that's going to be the end of you. His team is in a position, though, where at the very least they've managed to take B, and they are in the position to hold and contest B. But the enemy team, you can see there, they're already trying to take the B cap point, and this team really needs to coordinate their effort to kick them out of there. Ow is going to go ahead, he's going to continue opening up here. Keeping behind this island, he's still being detected by radar or hydroacoustic there, but he actually manages to set that Zao on fire. Isn't that a little bit of turn of fortune for that Zao player? Because, of course, as we all know, they're basically just flamethrowers. But this is what I was talking about with ships coming around the headland of that island. You know he's there. You can see him. Somebody's even targeting him. So he's going to go ahead, he's going to get a set of torpedoes off, they're going to come around that island, and there's not a lot of distance here, but he switches over to the armor piercing, and look at this. That armor piercing just rips right into that Minotaur. He didn't have a lot of health there, but look how much health he actually managed to take off of Ow within that few seconds. Fortunately for Ow, that Minotaur was not a very smart player, and he came around that island with not a lot of health left, so Ow was able to citadel him very quickly. But in the future, I probably wouldn't have risked it, and I would have just tried to run away. Can't pop your smoke screen in that situation because of the hydroacoustic and the radar detecting you. Now, that's going to be Ow's first kill in the game. And at this point, he's done about 13,000 damage. It's not terrible for this early stage in the game, but given that his team is in the lead now with base captures, and the fact that they've managed to take out one of the enemy destroyers and that tier 10 Minotaur, means that he is in a prime position to actually go ahead and start aggressively hunting the enemy. And there are a number of enemy ships that are back over towards their spawn. As we've seen in other videos, what happens is once the initial base captures get done, cruisers and battleships that don't want to push up and be aggressive and support their destroyer captains end up falling into the back, allowing the more aggressive team to push forward, hold those base locations, and yes, even if they lose ships, they are still leaving themselves in an excellent position to win the game. Now, Ow gets spotted as he comes around from behind this island, and that is going to be the enemy Mogami. The enemy Mogami is a very, very bad ship to run into if you are playing in a destroyer, especially if you're playing in a destroyer that doesn't have a lot of health left, which Ow, since he's lost half of his health, it would be very bad for him. But you notice that Mogami player isn't paying attention. He's shooting, but he's shooting stuff off at the B cap point. And because he's not paying attention to the fact that there's a smoke screen in front of him, and that he briefly detected the tier 9 destroyer, look at this. He's going to turn broadside too late right into all of Ow's torpedoes. They may be stock torpedoes, but they still get the job done. And at those kinds of ranges, they absolutely will wreck things. So Ow gets himself a second kill and manages to do a respectable 40,000 damage. He also manages to set that Zao on fire once again. But look at this Zao. He knows that there's a destroyer up there. He also knows that destroyer just used his torpedoes. So he's actually closing in here, and he's actually going to go ahead and take shots into that smoke screen to try and hit him. Now, Ow is going to go ahead. He's going to bug out of there. Why would you do that? Well, Zao's got torpedoes, so you have to remember that. Those torpedoes probably going to come in there. Unfortunately, Ow not paying very much attention, and he's actually going to beach himself. Not only is he going to beach himself, he's almost going to parallel park it here. And I've been in situations where I've had this similar situation happen to me, and I've actually been stuck there until they finally sank me. So, executing a 20-point turn in an attempt to get out of here. But the good news is, being right here behind this island means that the Zao's torpedoes, well, they're all going to miss him. So, in some respect, this was actually a good thing for him. But getting stuck like that, parallel parked between two island outcroppings, is not the best place to be. Now he's going to continue, he's going to open up with his guns. He's still behind this smoke screen. So because he's still behind this smoke screen, he's not detected. The problem, though, is that that also means that the enemy team isn't being detected either, so he doesn't have much of a target to shoot at. And he's going to go ahead, he's going to get one set off here, he's looking at what this battleship is doing, he's going to get this second set off, and with any luck, this Montana is just going to continue to sail on a nice straight line into them. Now the enemy team has lost yet another destroyer, so right now, Ow's team is in the destroyer advantage category. They can basically go around uncontested and nearly unmolested because the remaining enemy destroyer is a Shimakaze, and it definitely doesn't want to engage a Fletcher, even one that's been heavily damaged. So, Ow's been detected here, he's opened up with his guns, and that Montana is just going to continue to push forward. But you'll notice that Montana did turn, and because he turned at the last minute, most of these torpedoes are actually going to miss. In fact, I think all of them ended up missing. So that Montana captain definitely has got some torpedo beat skill going on here. But you can see here, he's got his guns pointed elsewhere. He's not paying attention to the fact that there's a low health destroyer that keeps popping up here. But now he is paying attention, and now this is when you've got to motor. Fortunately, Ow has got the island that he can go hide behind. He manages to set that Montana on fire, which is going to at least burn him down for a little bit because he's used his repair, so he can gain some additional damage there, and then drop off detectability. The enemy team has been doing a pretty reasonable job maintaining the balance on the teams. Every time they lose a ship, they manage to kill one as well, but they are way down on points. And the fact that they've been unable to capture either the B or the C cap point at this time is going to play a very important factor at the end of this battle. Now, Ow is the sole remaining destroyer on his team at this point, and he's got a friendly Moskva up here that's taking a lot of fire in here. Ow is going to go ahead and he's going to deploy a smoke screen. Now you might think with the smoke mechanics, that smoke screen is not really going to do much good for him, but that's not actually correct, because all that Moskva has to do is stop shooting, and he'll eventually drop off. And as long as Ow stays up front to spot, that Moskva can take his sweet time, line up the shots he needs, as well as recover some health. Now that enemy Zhao has popped up once again, this time just behind that island, and you can see that Zhao trying to return fire there, but actually having his shots get impacted by that island. Ow puts torpedoes in the water towards that Zhao, but all that Zhao needs to do is basically beach it, and he'll be safe and sound from any of that. At this point, though, the enemy team has managed to get another kill. So the teams are currently equal as far as destroyers and ships in general. But again, Ow's team has the points lead because they've got 2 of the caps, so they're gaining points faster. Ow's going to go ahead and he's going to come all the way down back towards his spawn to try and get around this island. There is an enemy battleship, a Yamato I believe, that's back over there. And that battleship was actually engaging with a friendly ship down there before finally sinking him. So Ow's going to go down here, and he's going to see what he can spot, and just make sure that enemy ships aren't trying to sneak up the back side of him, and maybe put shots into that Moskva. As long as the Moskva's alive, and as long as he's got his radar available, the enemy destroyer doesn't want to come near him, even though it's a Shimakaze. It doesn't want to come near him, because that radar probably very quickly put an end to his day. Now Ow gives that island a nice wide berth, and he spots that battleship. And you can see here his torpedoes are back up there. Moskva, unfortunately not really paying too much attention, sails right into the Zhao's torpedoes and does eat some damage. Now that little bit of damage that he took is going to play a really important factor here. Ow gets torpedoes off at that Yamato, and that Yamato is kind of starting to turn, heading up that channel, so the torpedoes that he fired needed a little bit more lead as that Yamato completes his turn and starts picking up speed. Also notice that Yamato's got his spotter aircraft up, so they are at the very least going to have identified those torpedoes headed towards him. But look at where that guy's guns are pointing. He's not even paying attention to what's back behind him or what's on the other side of him. He's just staring at an island. So because he's not paying attention, Ow actually opens up with his guns. Not something I would recommend given the Yamato's secondaries and the fact that you're in range, and also that that guy really just needs to turn his attention towards you, and his rear turret will get there a lot quicker. But at least one torpedo connects with that Yamato, and like I said before, really both sets needed just a little bit more lead, and he didn't quite give it to him, partly because the island was in the way, and also partly because that Yamato wasn't entirely committed to that turn at that point. However, that one hit is going to force the Yamato to repair the flooding. And because of that, that means if Ow can actually set this guy on fire, or even better, the Moskva, he'll start burning down. And if they can burn him down, they can get rid of his guns, and boy, does the Yamato have some big, nasty guns. You'll notice, though, that the enemy team has managed to pull it back just a little bit, and the scores are very close, as the Yamato pushes into the B cap point to take it. OwO's team is down to just 3 ships. And that Moskva, well, now he's facing down the problem of a destroyer and a Zhao both dropping torpedoes at him. Plus, he's got that Yamato pushing around the island. The Yamato briefly targets OW for a few seconds and then decides he's more interested in that Moskva. But you'll notice OW manages to set him on fire. So now that fire's going to burn for a little bit. He's continuing to put out the high explosive here, trying to aim that center superstructure where there's a lot of flammable goodies to hit. And while his rounds aren't causing a lot of damage, just a few hundred here and there thanks to the Yamato's thick armor and superstructure, the point here is simply not to do straight up damage, but cause fires. The Yamato puts that fire out, but as you can see here, the rainbow arcs of the US destroyers are perfect for landing hits on ships on the other sides of islands. So those shots continue to land, but no more fires set. Now, the Yamato disappeared briefly, but now that he's come around the island, the Moskva's got him in sight. So OwO's going to go ahead and start opening back up. And again, you can see his shots are clearing. And he's almost got the guy. The Moskva actually managed to hit him for a good amount of damage, and OwO manages to secure the kill on that Yamato. But look at the situation he's in. Enemy team is capping the B cap point, and that could be any number of ships, including a cruiser or a destroyer. They're now capping the C cap point, and while they were slightly down on points, OwO's team is in a much worse position because it's 2 versus 4, and OwO has less than half his health left, and the friendly cruiser that's on his team, well, we're going to see here that guy has even less health left. Really, that guy is one seagull dropping away from being sent to the briny deep. OwO, though, is not going to give up, and this is something that I think a lot more players really need to instill in their mindset. He's gone, and he's gone to the A cap point, so at the very least he can start capturing it and hopefully get his team some very much needed points incoming again, especially if the enemy team kills that cruiser. Now that cruiser, though, is being a bit of a fool. He's shot at the enemy team, and so they saw him and they see where he's at. They can fire back at him. Again, they didn't need to hit him with much. I'm sure the splash damage from a shell near his ship probably sent him on. As a result of that ship's death, OwO's team is now hurting for points. And there's not a lot of time left in this battle. Because there's not a lot of time left, and because the enemy team has 2 of the caps, that now means the enemy team really, in order to win this game, all they have to do is stay alive. That's it. Stay alive. That's all you have to do. And that's when the enemy destroyer pops up here. This Shimakaze in the B cap point who was capturing. But look at the amount of damage that Shimakaze is putting out on OwO. The Shimakaze actually makes a critical error in judgment here. What he should have done, he shouldn't have popped his smokescreen. He should have actually just engaged with OwO because he could have taken the Fletcher, given how much health he has. OwO has his torpedoes up, and he gets both of them off into that smokescreen. What do we say about smokescreens? They're torpedo magnets. If you drop one, especially if you're engaging with the destroyer, don't sit in it. Even worse, don't turn around or back up in it. At this point, the enemy team only needs to survive just a few seconds longer. There's less than a minute left in the game. Those torpedoes, those fish are running hot and true. And the only way OwO is actually going to manage to win this game is if that Shimakaze makes that critical error and backs up in a smokescreen or turns around. However, what this Shimakaze is actually doing is he's left his smokescreen, wise choice, in the last few seconds. The problem is he left his smokescreen and then he centered the smokescreen behind him and got hit by a torpedo. And that little change right there was enough to set OwO's team above on points in the last seconds. Look at that, 121,000 damage, 4 kills, devastating strike, Confederate, and solo warrior. The one medal that I have yet to get, but a very well-earned solo warrior in that game, a very lucky torpedo hit at the very end because that Shima player decided he needed to turn around and stay behind his smokescreen rather than just use the island for cover. Top of the team for XP earned 2,500 base XP. Very good. Thank you, OwOver, for this wonderful Fletcher replay. That's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, albeit very intermittently, without a set schedule, you can follow me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.